Hey guys, there has been 2 new heroes released, and in today's video we're going to go over them. We're going to look at their skills, I'm going to give you my thoughts on them, and I'll give you my opinion on whether or not they're worth pulling for. And we'll just do that right now. Yes, they're worth pulling for. They seem kind of overpowered, to be honest. First we'll have a look at Hex Joker at Home. They've released a video for him, so this is the clip promoting him. So I'll let it play and then I'll say something. Okay, so that is Hex, the new marksman for, I believe, the Piercer faction and the Infernal faction. He has 2 factions, so that alone makes him very powerful. But there's one thing I wanted to look at, which is, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but this guy here, he's a boss you see in the campaign. You see him in Tide. I'm wondering if they're hinting at maybe new dungeons or new content, maybe. I'm being really hopeful here. This is a lot of copium, I apologize, but you never know, right? Maybe it's a teaser. And I say that because of this one. I don't remember this enemy anywhere, but... Oh no, this is the Gear Raid 1 boss. Never mind. It's false alarm. Yeah, I think this is the boss you fight up to stage 18 before it turns into Eloin. So yeah. Anyway, that's the trailer for Hex the Mad Diviner. The Captain Reeve showcase is the same as last year, so feel free to check that out if you like. Treasures in the Deep was an event that came last October leading up to Halloween, so this is the exact same cutscene there as well. Feel free to check it out. I won't go over it now. But mainly the thing I want to focus on are the heroes. So if we go to the Hero Skills compilation, we can see some clips of them, and then we'll take a look at their actual skills and we'll break down their thoughts. So this is Hex. We'll go over these skills on the actual thing. I really don't like these promo cards they do because they always miss the details. When I first read this, I thought Hex was kind of meh. He didn't really sound that great to me. But once you actually get to click on and look at the effects, you see it says Temperance, Death, and Strength. They're just words here, right? But in the actual game's tooltips, when you click on them, they'll tell you what they mean. And, you know, Death is like a 500% damage 3 times or something crazy. Like, it's actually a lot, but you don't see that on here. So I don't rate you looking at these. These are very misleading often. I don't want to get into this too much because this is obviously heavily tied to his kit, which we'll go over in detail in a second. But these are the clips. I think these are basically his basic attacks. This might be his ultimate buff, and this looks to be his second passive that gives him invisibility when he gets hit. So that is Hex. This is Captain Reeve, who exists, and this is all kind of the same stuff. The only addition to Captain Reeve is having Razaak in your gallery grants you an extra 6% gold for Captain Reeve. And then finally we have Razaak. He is the second new hero coming out. He is a marksman for the Piercer faction, and he's the one I'm most interested in because of this here. This is his ultimate, and it's basically just a massive amount of AoE damage. So that's the graphics we have at the moment. We don't have any more visuals. So let's go and find them in game and take a look at what they can do and talk about their potential. So if you go to the calendar, you can actually click on this, and then you can see the icons for the characters are there right now. So let's start off with Hex, since we saw him first. This is Hex, Infernal, and Piercer faction, which is just really, really, really good. It's got to be one of the best duo factions you can have as a marksman. You can see he does magic damage, which is really good. He focuses obviously on airborne, so his first attack prioritizes airborne. But the main thing that makes him good, he has this card of fate. When he makes 4 attacks, he'll have 4 card of fates, and then he'll draw a card and gains 1 random card effect, either from Temperance, Death, or Strength. So you can see Temperance throws 3 cards, each dealing 140% damage, while inflicting 75% slow for 5 seconds. That's a lot of damage. Just from that, that's a lot of damage. And it's also a pretty reliable slow at that amount. Death is 500% damage, 1 time and burning for 5 seconds. And Strength is increasing his attack by 30% and attack speed by 70 for 25 seconds. So, I mean, that's pretty good. And the guy's going to have a lot of attack speed, as we'll go over later. Very likely, more often than not, he will have this buff up, I would assume. Just based on how much he can draw cards, in the number of times he can attack within 25 seconds, it's probably a fair assumption that he will be able to keep the Strength buff up, which is a pretty good buff. So then we have Death, which is just massive damage nuke, and Temperance is a pretty good damage as well. It's not as high as Death, but it's still very high. So these just seem really powerful, considering this is just his basic attack. So we've already looked at this one. So next up we have Mad Truth, which is his ultimate. Starts at 1000 rage cap, can be reduced to 900. His starting rage is 700, so this will actually be quite quick to activate. It lasts for 30 seconds up to 35 seconds. Triggering it grants you 100 to 140% bonus damage, as well as 100 attack speed, and reduces his attack interval by 50%. But something else, importantly, replaces all cards with the Joker, which is 400% damage 3 times, and burning for 5 seconds. That just seems kind of crazy to me. That's a massive amount of damage. He's increasing his damage by 100%, then he's making a triple attack for 400% damage. That just seems kind of nuts to me. Obviously, this is based on his scaling. So if we take a look at this, at max, he has 3.9k, just under, which isn't that high, but the modifiers are so high that I imagine it doesn't matter. But the main thing is his attack interval is only 2 seconds. That's really short. So with his ultimate up, which reduces the interval by 50%, that's a 1 second attack interval, plus the 100 attack speed he'll be getting, plus attack speed from stats. He's probably going to be throwing a card every 0.8 seconds, 0.7 seconds. It's hard to know with scaling. We've never had a character attack that fast. Having range, having this much damage, it just seems like he's going to be very powerful. On top of that, he has a 15 to 20% chance to inflict stuns on his attacks, and hitting enemies under CC effects will grant him 45 up to 60% bonus damage. So if you pair him with some kind of CC, it's just ridiculous amounts of damage he'll be pushing out. And then the last passive is Fate the Hermit, and this is simply when he receives damage, he resists the incoming damage, so he has damage negation, and then he becomes invisible for 3 seconds, and it can trigger once every 50 down to 40 seconds. I can even imagine him being used in Guild Boss just for how high the Mad Truth's damage should go to. I mean, we could be wrong. Like I said, his basic attack is quite low. He has so high modifiers on his attacks, he has such low attack interval. It's going to be crazy. He just seems like he's going to be insanely powerful on paper. Okay, so let's have a look at his awakenings. So first awakening, during Mad Truth, which is his ultimate, which lasts 30 seconds, there is a chance to draw the Fool. So instead of 400% damage 3 times and burning, it will be 500% damage 3 times and 75% slow and burning for 5 seconds. So he gains a slow and he gains another 100% damage per hit. So he gains, what, 300% damage on that? It just seems nuts. This is super powerful. Obviously it says there is a chance. It would be lovely if you told us what the chance was, so we don't know how often this will trigger. So it might be rubbish, but I mean, it seems pretty good as Awakenings go. Awakening 2, flat attack is undervalued as Awakenings go, because when you get the flat attack, it goes into your base attack. It goes into the white stat on the left. That means that your gear will scale off of it, which makes it really good. So those Awakenings where you get flat attack is actually really powerful. And then Awakening 3, during the effect of his ultimate Mad Truth, the one that lasts 30 seconds, attacking targets that have burning with basic attacks extends the duration of Mad Truth by 1 second. This again seems absolutely ridiculous to me because the Joker will be doing burning all the time anyway. I think the way this works is it replaces all cards. I think this is when he draws a card. So every 4 attacks he'll be throwing the Joker, right? But he's going to be attacking every second and the burning lasts for 5 seconds. If I'm right, the attack interval half down from 2 to 1 second. So he should be permanently burning the target anyway, right? So surely he just keeps increasing the ultimate as long as he can attack. He just has Mad Truth up. If that's the case, he's going to be a monster in Guild Boss, I would think. I'd be surprised if he's not. So that seems really powerful to me. Not to mention in Guild Boss, you'll have other characters applying burning, and also this guy is an infernal hero. So seems crazy to me. Seems absolutely mental. Awakening 4, penetration 5% is always pretty solid. Awakening 5, each draw returns 1 card of fate. So I believe this basically allows him to cycle through his cards faster. You know, you have to make 4 attacks and then on the 4th you draw a card. I guess this is basically, you make 4 attacks, you draw a card, and you also get another one of your 4 cards towards the next 4. So it effectively allows you to cycle on 3 cards rather than 4, is how I'm kind of understanding. I think it just reduces the cycling by 1, however you want to work out the math. Basically, all of his awakenings seem very, very strong to me on paper. So if you like wailing and you're happy with the game, then feel free to wail for him. He seems really strong to me. On paper, Hex seems crazy. Okay, so moving on, we have Razaak. He is a marksman for the Piercer faction, and I think of him as Maul Plus, simply because of his ultimate. But we'll get to that in a second. First off, every basic attack has a 30% chance of generating 2 soul-eating fish, and he increases XP obtained through battle by 5%. So soul-eating fish attacks 1 enemy with the highest HP percentage remaining and deals 200% magic damage. That sounds very strong, right? But it's only a 30% chance, and it's only 2 of these fish. We don't really know a lot about how this works. This feels like quite a particular mechanic. There's a few interpretations. They could just sit on the floor and maybe they attack in adjacent tiles and then they expire after 1 attack. That's kind of what I think is the most likely. If they make multiple attacks for their duration, because there is a duration mentioned in other skills, which we'll go over in a second, then it's insane if they can keep attacking. It's just brokenly strong then. I don't think it will be that case. So we don't really know how that scales. But the main thing is it's only going to be dropping them with a 30% chance, right? So you need to look at his attack interval, and it's 3.5. So that's quite a slow attack interval. So you can imagine the talent is not really going to activate very often, as it's going to be based on his attacks. So as you can imagine, the talent won't be activating that often. It's based on his basic attacks, and he's making one every 3.5 seconds. So I don't think the talent by itself is super strong there. So his basic attack is just an AoE throw, much like Maul. So that's kind of the same, though it doesn't have the slow effect that Maul's does from his. And then his ultimate is Ocean's Clutch. It's manual. It has 900 rage cap. He starts with 700. Max skills will reduce the rage cap to 800. Maul's, I believe, is 500. So this is 300 rage cap higher than Maul's. So Maul will cycle his quicker. The difference is at max skill, Ocean's Clutch goes up to 1000% damage, whereas Maul's is 900%. So 1000 sounds fantastic, but you have to look at the modifiers. So if we go max level and we look here, he has just over 4000 attack at base max level. Maul has about 3000. So you have about 30% more base attack than Maul does, and you have 100% more damage on Ocean's Clutch. So I think Razaak is very strong. Maul is already very good. 1000 attack doesn't sound like a lot, but that's 1000 attack that all of your percentage accessories and gear is going to scale off of additionally, right? So if you're fairly late game and you're going attack, crit damage for your accessories, then that's 120% attack from just 2 accessories. Plus you'll probably be aiming for 20-ish% on the other 3 items. So that's another 60%. So that will probably bring you up to around 180% bonus attack. And if you have the elite fighter set or anything like that, you'll probably be just over 200% bonus attack. So that 1k bonus attack that he's getting over Maul suddenly becomes 3000 extra attack over Maul. So that's why it does matter. So I think Ocean's Clutch is actually going to be very, very powerful. It's a massive damage nuke, which is always valuable in this game, as there's a lot of times you need to kill stuff within a tight window. And that's why Maul is so valuable. Having someone who does Maul's damage but more is kind of crazy. Next up, we have Soul Surge. After Ocean's Clutch, his ultimate ends, enhances the hero's talent, increasing the generation chance of soul-eating fish upon each attack by 20% and its quantity by 2. This effect lasts for 12 seconds. And you can upgrade this by another 20% chance, so it increases it by 40%. So you have 30 plus 40% chance, bringing up to 70% chance to spawn 4 soul-eating fish on basic attacks after his ultimate's been activated for 12 seconds. So it's slightly niche. I don't actually think this is that strong, personally, mainly because his ultimate is likely going to kill everything anyway. So for those 12 seconds, at least half of it is probably eaten up by enemies moving into your range. His ult is probably going to kill everything anyway. So yeah, I don't know how good Soul Surge will be. Potentially it could be very good. I guess if you are unable to kill them with his ultimate, you have this to help sweep up. So it might actually be very good for really high level stages, maybe the later Gear Raid 1 stages. Just this guy is going to be a monster in Gear Raid 1. To me, that's what he's here for. I would absolutely also use him in Gear Raid 2 instead of my Vienna. He's probably got a better kill window than Vienna, to be honest. Maybe not. I'd have to get him first and then test him. But in my opinion, Gear Raid 1, Gear Raid 2, Gear Raid 3, he's Maul on steroids, potentially. So long as he actually does function better than Maul, which I'm fairly sure he will, this guy is going to be crazy good. I think the only place I wouldn't use him would be Guild Boss, but I would use him almost everywhere else. So anyway, let's have a look at the last 2 things he's got going on. And we have Soul Hunting, 30-second cooldown. When you max skill it, it goes down to a 20-second cooldown. And every kill generates 2 soul-eating fish that last for 15 seconds. And the duration for 15 seconds can increase to 25 seconds. So this is the thing I meant by a duration. This is the only part that actually mentions that they last for a duration. So I don't know if this means his soul-eating fish always have a 15-second duration, or if only the ones spawned by soul-eating do. Personally, I'm assuming that they all have a 15-second duration. Otherwise, there will definitely be weird exploits you could do on certain maps. I'm very curious to see how this works, but a lot of how strong he is depends on exactly how soul-eating fish works, whether they just sit around, whether they fly at enemies, explode, shoot projectiles, just, you know, whether you trigger them by standing on them, I don't know. But however the soul-eating fish works could be make or break for how insane he is outside of his ultimate. I think for just his ultimate, he'll probably be very valuable, but the soul-eating fish has potential to be really, really good. Especially this one. Every kill generates 2 soul-eating fish. My problem with this one is it says it triggers once every 30 seconds, right? But then it says every kill. So if you ultimate and kill 20 enemies, do you generate 40 soul-eating fish, or do you generate 2 because it spawns only on the triggering first kill, and that triggers the cooldown? So I wish the wording was a bit better, but we'll find out sooner or later. I imagine it will be just 2, because if it does double them all, then it's just insane, and he becomes like a better Vienna in some ways, because he'll have his own form of execute, because these guys are doing 200% damage, which is a lot, to be honest. So, Tidal Heritage, his final passive, if you have Captain Reeve in your hero gallery, you gain an additional 5% XP through battles. And his talent also grants 5% XP, so potentially 10% XP bonus. So that pretty much covers Razaak and his skills. He has a pretty slow attack interval. Other than that, pretty standard stuff. He has a high cost, very similar to Maul. Other than that, standard stuff. So let's take a look at his awakenings. His first awakening, for every kill, soul hunting duration plus 2 seconds. So again, I don't understand, because it says every kill generates 2 soul-eating fish that last 25 seconds. So I don't understand why it's talking about soul hunting's duration itself. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a bit confused on some of the framing of the wording. Let me know if there's something obvious I'm missing, but I don't really get it. If you keep killing enemies, the fish stay on the ground. If that's the case, does that mean that they can attack multiple times? I don't know. It really depends on how that works. If they can keep attacking, it's busted. It's busted. 5% attack is really good. Again, it'd be better if it was base attack rather than bonus percentage attack, because then you're increasing the scaling for future gear, but it's still bonus stats, so it's not bad. Third awakening, soul-eating fish now inflict a 50% slow for 2 seconds. It's pretty minor as far as I'm concerned. These are single target fish, so that's kind of nothingy in my opinion. Awakening 4, 8% crit rate. That's kind of nothingy as well. Especially if you have an Awaken 4, you're probably wailing. At that point, you've probably been playing the game a while, you would assume, and you probably have enough gear to get him to 100% crit rate without that. So, not a big deal. It's okay. It helps a bit with gearing, I guess, so it's not terrible, but it doesn't increase his ceiling. That's the main thing. It makes it a bit easier to gear him, but it doesn't increase his ceiling. And for an Awaken 4, you want to increase their maximum potential, right? So, Awaken 5, now things get a bit juicy. Ocean's Clutch has a 25% chance of being triggered 2 times. It's just kind of insane. So this is the 1000% damage nuke in a massive area. The one we saw in the video, you know, the little gifs that they have displayed on that little event notice. So you just fire that twice and that's a 2000% AoE damage. Like, that's ridiculous. Because what you could do is you could just keep running whatever level you're stuck on. Gear raid 1, 20 or 21. And just keep running it until he procs this. And then you have a double AoE nuke that will probably wipe out whatever wave you're stuck on. To me, the potential of this is just ridiculous. Obviously, it's a chance, but you can just rerun it until it works, right? Because you want to get Power of Dominance. So if you can just run this until you actually get that proc, it's just ridiculous. Anyway, that covers Razaak. That covers his awakenings. Pretty much covers the 2 new heroes coming to the game, Hex and Razaak. They both seem absolutely mental as far as I'm concerned. These will be heroes that stay in the summon pool. They are not limited heroes. So one thing to keep in mind, this weekend is a really good summoning weekend. It's 2 times of all legendary heroes, and then it's also 10 times of these specific legendary heroes, all the way from Friday through Sunday, which is pretty nice. And then after that, you can see on Saturday, we have another summoning event, a 10 times increased summon rate for Captain Reeve only. So you have a much higher chance of getting him. This will be a separate summon pool. This will not be the same one here. This will be an Abyssal Nexus summon. This will not be a Divine Summoning limited rate up. So if you have your heart set on Captain Reeve, who is limited after this event, you will not be able to get him for, we don't know how long, probably the end of October for Halloween. If you do want to get him, you should save your summons for Abyssal Nexus, though keep in mind it is 10 up only, it is not 2 times as well, though this time they have added a 250 times guarantee. If you summon 250 times on this banner, then you will be automatically given a Captain Reeve. So I think that's nice. It's kind of a pity on the banner to ensure you get him if somehow the 10 up you fail it, which is fairly likely at this point. So I think that's a good addition. It doesn't hurt. In my opinion, unless you are absolutely aching for a limited hero such as Reeve, I would summon on this banner. These new heroes are just insane as far as I'm concerned. I've always been a bit hesitant with new heroes because you can't really tell. Sometimes they seem like they might be good, but you don't know how it will play out. But just the scaling on Hex's modifiers, and just for the sake that Razaak is Maul, but a legendary version, I think they're both going to be crazy good. I'll be very surprised if that's not the case. Anyway, that pretty much covers the 2 heroes. I will be making more videos this weekend covering the events and the other stuff coming up, so stay tuned for that. Thank you guys very much for watching. Have a lovely weekend. Take care and bye-bye. And good luck with your summons.